Nation? It's Raider D here, and I've got terrible news that we're going to be talking about today. There will be no Batman and Robin this year like we had last year with Max Crosby and Malcolm Koonce. Breaking news that is just coming out right now. We're going to jump into that and more on today's episode 2 of today's episode of the Raider D podcast. So I had to jump back on here and make you guys a second video for the day, as breaking news just came through the Associated Press, and I am all over it for you guys. Man, this really sucks that Malcolm Koonce's knee injury is as feared. He is done for the season. He will not be returning to the Raiders this year. And being that this was a contract year for Malcolm Koonce, and the Raiders really don't know if his 8 sacks last year towards the end of the season were something that he could replicate over and over again, or if it was a one-off type of season for Malcolm Koonce, it's unlikely now that the Raiders will even bring Malcolm Koonce back. And so Tyree Wilson will now be the starter. Good news on that front. He has been cleared by the medical staff to play on Sunday, and we'll see. He had a knee injury as well. How that knee is going to hold up for big Tyree Wilson. He was the number 7 overall draft pick last year. Let's hope and pray that he can be worth that number 7 draft pick, because the Robin to our Batman is now done. Let's jump into this article here that just came across my news feed. Man, guys, this sucks. Let's just get right into it. Raiders lose emerging star to season-ending injury, says report. Things weren't looking good for Malcolm Koonce when the Las Vegas Raiders placed him on injured reserve, but the team was remaining mum on just how long he could be out. Well, it looks like they have their answer. Now, if you guys remember, over a week ago, I said, according to my source within the Raider organization, it was much worse than what Antonio Pierce was leading on. And when everybody else was hopeful he was going to come back, the truth inside that building is they knew he wasn't going to come back. He is going to have surgery. He is done for the season. That was according to my source within the Raiders. I let you guys know that information, and unfortunately my source was correct, as it has now been leaked out. The official injury report will be coming out soon, and he will be placed on, the end of the season IR. And we don't know. I mean, will the Raiders maybe even cut him to free up a roster spot? I'm not sure. I know you can cut them, but I don't think, he's not going to lose any money for this reason. They do put that in their contracts to protect them. If you guys know otherwise, drop a comment down below and let me know how that's going to work out. According to the September 20 X post from NFL insider Jordan Schultz, Koonce is out for the year with a serious knee injury. This doesn't come as a surprise, as head coach Antonio Pierce has hinted that things weren't looking good for the defensive end. This is devastating news for Koonce, who was already for his biggest role yet in the Raiders after he came off career season in 2023 that saw 8 total sacks. But the 8 total sacks doesn't even truly represent what Koonce did last year. His pressures were up, and he's really good against the run. So he's a very well-rounded defensive end, and that's something that we really needed, and we're going to miss out on with him not being there. Expectations were high for him in 2024, but now he won't get a chance to play. What makes it worse for Koonce is that he's in his contract year and won't be able to show what he can do before he hits free agency. The Raiders already signed Cleveon Chason as a replacement, but could potentially look to add more defensive depth now that Koonce is done for the year. The defensive line was supposed to be the team's biggest strength this season, and losing Koonce is a serious blow. Now, remember, guys, I made a video about Hassan Reddick with the New York Jets and how he's holding out and has requested a trade from the Jets. Hassan Reddick is a bona fide pass rushing specialist, defensive end / outside linebacker, and if the Raiders were to make an offer to the Jets, maybe give up a 3rd-round draft pick, which is what they would end up owing to the Philadelphia Eagles, who they traded for Hassan Reddick. And then we've got the cap space without Malcolm Koonce. Unlikely he's going to, be re-signed to the Raiders now that he's done in his contract year. He's not going to get a contract with the Raiders most likely now. So you got to be looking for a long-term replacement for him, opposite of Max Crosby, because we're 2 weeks into the NFL and the only person who's gotten sacked so far in our team is Max Crosby. That's not acceptable. Christian Wilkins is getting a bunch of double teams, so he's not going to be getting a whole bunch. And on that outside, we're getting almost no pressure. And I'm not convinced that Tyree Wilson is going to be able to step that up and become that pass rushing, guru on the other side of Max Crosby. But Hassan Reddick he is proven as an absolute monster with a motor that matches Max Crosby. The hand skills, the bend, everything. Hassan Reddick has it. Let me know in the comments below. Despite Hassan Reddick being a risk that he might ask for more money next year or a trade or whatever, should the Raiders go and make a trade with the Jets right now for a 3rd-round draft pick, or maybe even trade Michael Mayer and get a draft pick back? Because the Jets won last night, and one thing that is clear is they still need a really good tight end. They could use some depth there at tight end. Their defense is fine. They don't need Hassan Reddick. And so if they got Michael Mayer, we might even get a 3rd-round pick back from them, or a 4th-round pick. Let's say we get Hassan Reddick and a 4th-round pick back for Michael Mayer. Would that be satisfactory to you, Raider Nation? Let me know in the comments down below. Jump back into this article here real quick, and basically where we're at with this. What's next for the Raiders and Malcolm Koonce? Now, this is their theory. Raiders defensive line may not be as effective this season, but should still be a strong group. Max Crosby is Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and Christian Wilkins has been solid in his first 2 weeks, first 2 games with the team. However, the team needs another defensive end to step up. Tyree Wilson has been hurt the first 2 games, while Charles Snowden and Janarius Robinson haven't done much. This is a great opportunity for all 3 of them to make names for themselves. I'm not buying it. I don't think that they're going to make a name for themselves. I think Tyree Wilson is probably going to be a bust. I think maybe he'd be better at defensive tackle, but as a defensive end, I think he is a bust. He just does not have that spark, that bend, that speed, that burst. But maybe as a defensive end, maybe he can be a good run stopper because he is big and strong. But I'm not seeing the motor, the bend, the hustle. I just don't see it there with Tyree. So we need a bona fide replacement. And Cleveon, I'm not convinced that he's going to be the guy either. I'd rather go out and get somebody that is proven. For Koonce, he may need to take 1-year contract with the Raiders in the offseason and try to regain some value. This is possible. The Raiders could give him a 1-year deal because we do know that he does have a high upside if he can get over this knee injury. And then next year, see what he really truly has. We would get him on a cheap deal. I would be okay with that 100%. But I also think that because he had such a good year last year, I think he hits that free agent market. And I think there's going to be some teams that'll be willing to take a chance on him and give him a bigger deal than what the Raiders will give him on a 1-year contract. Big reason from him would have likely meant a huge contract. A big season from him would have likely meant a big contract heading his way in free agency. He's only had 1 season where he made any sort of impact, so teams aren't going to be lining up to pay him. Nah, they're not going to pay him like Max Crosby money, but he could be making, he could get a good 2-year deal, maybe 6 or 7 million a year and do something like that with a 1-year guarantee. Maybe like a 10 million guarantee on that. I think there will be teams that will take a risk on him. You look at the Carolina Panthers; they need help over there. There's a bunch of teams that need help. He can still get paid. So I think his chances of returning with the Raiders are probably pretty slim at this point, especially being that he has a knee injury. Coming back in the Raiders is defense he knows would be best option going forward. Yes, I agree. I just don't see that it's going to happen. Now they get into Tyree Wilson here a little bit. While the Koonce news is devastating to the Raiders, they did get some good injury news, which is Wilson will be returning for week 3. Pierce announced in his September 20th press conference. Now that Koonce is out, Wilson will have plenty of opportunities to make plays. He didn't have overly impressive training camp or preseason, so it remains to be seen if he can be an impact player. And God, I hope he is, because we spent a 7th-round draft pick on him. Wilson has all the talent to be elite pass rusher, but he has trouble getting off the line of scrimmage and has limited pass rush moves. He'll be able to work on those things for the rest of the season, and that's all that they got right there. So that's the news, man. And it really, really sucks. But guys, moving forward, it's next man up. Do you think that the Raiders should go and make a trade for Haason Reddick right now? The Raiders are one of the teams who have been mentioned, and the Jets are ready to move off from him. It's not going to be they're not going to make a deal with him. That's a ship that has sailed. Could Antonio Pierce be just the coach that Haason Reddick needs to really shine? Look, he's still got some good gas in the tank. He's only 28. Let's see what the Raiders are going to do. Drop a comment down below. Raider Nation, salute. Next man up. Let's go get Carolina.